Grace and peace, everybody. We are back. You saw the thumbnail. You saw the title. You know what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at the new Riley Gaines show. She's launched a new podcast. It looks super interesting. And she had a great topic, and I thought it would be fun to discuss it today. So let's jump on in here. We're going to be talking about the infighting within the conservative movement. I think this is great. Shout out to the Riley Gaines podcast. I'll leave the link to this video down in the description. Go support the young lady, see what she's doing over there. I'm sure she's going to earn it. So let's check it out.
That Charlie Kirk was special because he was a coalition builder. It has become increasingly evident following his death that he was really the glue of the conservative movement, right? He's like the connecting fiber of the conservative party. It's what he did really, really well. He bridged together unlikely groups.
And I'm going to give her credit for that. I do think Charlie Kirk, on a secular level, was the glue. But I do think that the point that I want to bring out of here is that we cannot keep making this a secular argument, because we will lose on a secular plane. If we say, Charlie Kirk was everything about the conservative party, all we got to do is just tear down Charlie Kirk's image, besmirch his legacy, and now it's toast. We do need to look up to Christ. And I know she's not making this a spiritual, religious, Christian argument, but I think we should make it that and make it an issue about the points that we're arguing as conservatives are not just something that we made up out of whole cloth. The things that we derive from scripture, the things that derive from common sense and just natural observation, we need to stick to that and make a lot of that. So I just want to bring that up, but let's go, Riley.
And honestly, I hate talking about my friend's death because, yes, he was a political activist. He was a father. He was a husband. To me, this was a mentor. He was a friend. He was my boss, technically, at Turning Point USA, but really he was more than that to me. He was there for me at the very beginning of this. I think he saw something. Well, this is actually what he told me. He saw something special in me. He had no reason to kind of take me under his wing in the way that he did. Think about it. I was just a college age girl who experienced an injustice and spoke about this injustice. That was my only qualification to be in the position that I'm in now. But Charlie Kirk, he saw potential. He believed in me. And that was really like a transfer of confidence. His belief in me allowed me to believe in myself. And so I hate talking about my friend's death in the way that I guess I am, in a way that insinuates we could have capitalized or we could have net benefited from his death, because frankly, I'd rather him still be here than to have that momentum that I'm speaking to. And quite frankly, I don't like speaking for a man who isn't here to defend himself, but I do imagine that he would have wanted his death to be a unifying moment for the country. And I think more importantly, for the kingdom of Christ. And
I think we have to, and again, I'm not trying to nitpick. I think Riley is right on the money. I agree with her on the lion's share. Keep in mind, Christ does not need Charlie Kirk. Christ doesn't need us. Christ didn't need any of us. He chose us. And therefore, what happened to Charlie Kirk, as terrible as it was what God willed to happen. And how that plays out in our lives is to God's glory. So even now, right now, what's going on right now, what she's going to talk about, the infighting within the conservative movement, is to Christ's glory. And we might not understand it. We might not fully be able to wrap our minds around it, but it's to his glory. So I do think we should not wring our hands. That's the thing. Don't wring our hands. Let's look at it as this is what Christ has saw fit. Okay, let's go.
Before I say anything about my thoughts on Candace Owens and the wild theories that she's putting out there, I want to say that it is okay to question things, right? Of course, I believe this. I think it would be a problem if we didn't question things. I actually think it's a pretty inherently conservative ideological trait to question things. It's a good thing in its true nature. But what I don't believe is fruitful is saying, I'm just asking questions, but what you're actually doing is making totally unfounded speculations.
There we
like asking questions, but really they're statements with a question mark at the end. At this point, where we are right now in January of 2026, several months following Charlie Kirk's assassination, and since Candace Owens has gone online and made some of these wild accusations, it's much easier now to come online and say emphatically that what Candace Owens is doing to Charlie Kirk, to his legacy, to his beautiful bride, or really I should say his widow, to Turning Point USA, which is the organization that Charlie Kirk spent his entire adult life developing and fostering and growing so he could have influence among the youth, which clearly he had. Besides the point, it's easy to come online now, I believe, and say that what she is doing is distasteful. I believe that it's evil and it's defamatory, quite frankly. I say it's easier because we've seen people come out before me, right? People like Ali Bestucky and Alex Clark, both people who I admire very much. They were very quick to come out when others would not and say, hey, look, Charlie's body isn't even cold yet. And under the guise of truth and justice, you're insinuating an array of people were involved or somehow responsible for Charlie's death. When this discourse first started happening online, I gave some pretty terrible excuses, at least internally to myself. And I call them that because that's what they are. These things were excuses as to why I didn't need to comment on these things. Number one, I didn't think anyone needed my input or commentary. Plus, I was still learning, right? New information was coming out, and I had just had a baby. So I think I was maybe 4 or 5 weeks postpartum at this point when this was really hot in the news. But I think the thing that deterred me the most, and I say those are excuses, the thing that deterred me the most from speaking about this, and I'm ashamed to say it, and this is what I was alluding to in the first few minutes of this podcast when I was talking about the personal revelations that I had. I was scared. I was a coward. I was scared of the inevitable backlash that I would get for saying something about what Candace Owens was doing.
Let's
I
stop
realized,
right there. Shout out to being honest. I think that the best thing when you've been scared or when you've made a wrong decision is just to admit it up front. Shout out to her. And I understand it. I've heard other people say the same things, that they were afraid of the backlash when the Cantifa comes after you. Nobody wants Cantifa in your comment section, but truth must be told, and error, evil, wickedness must be called out. So shout out to Riley Gaines for doing this. And I think we need to give her flowers, because not everybody's willing to do this. I think this is what happened to Megyn Kelly. I think this is what happened to Brandon Tatum. They refused so long. They were scared so long that now they've sunk in and kind of created this narrative that they feel justified in not doing what is right. So shout out to Riley Gaines for sure. Let's finish up with this. Let's go.
That you get backlash for posting any of your opinions online. It doesn't matter what it is. You could say you like vanilla ice cream better than chocolate ice cream, and you're going to see like a total unleashing of whataboutism. Okay, so you get backlash for everything. Hence why I say these were all pretty terrible excuses. I will say, I want justice for Charlie Kirk, for his wife, for Turning Point, just about as bad as anyone. Okay, so to be very, very clear, the person or potentially the people or the institutions who were behind his murder, I want to see those people punished to the fullest extent of the law, which means the death penalty. Okay. But some of the conspiracy theories floating around out there, again, they're entirely baseless. And so you might say, why do you think they're baseless? How can you so confidently say they're baseless? Number one, Candace Owens made a podcast episode about this mysterious and cryptic and infamous influencer gathering in the Hamptons a few weeks before Charlie's death. I'll just go ahead and let you know, I was there. I was there in the Hamptons a few weeks before Charlie was murdered. And some of the things that Candace was saying had happened at that retreat with Bill Ackman simply did not happen. I don't know if maybe she received information from someone that was simply false. I don't know if she made it up. I'm not sure, but I can tell you some of the people in the room, the things that she said they were saying, I was there. It literally didn't happen. Now,
And the bad thing is, she's not the only one that said this. There have been other influencers who were there at the Hamptons, and they say that this didn't happen as Candace is saying it, but she still gets away with it. Like, why are they still allowing her to keep posturing this narrative when people who were there are saying that that is not true? We have 3 or 4 witnesses who are saying it's not true. We only have one Candace saying, well, somebody told me something different. Well, who's that person? Because at the current moment, what you're being told and what you're saying, Candace, isn't true. Shout out to Riley.
at this point, there are several people or groups of people that Candace has implied there's been some understanding of Charlie's death prior to the shooting, right? Like our own government, the French government, Egyptian planes, the Mossad. There's like a secret trapdoor underground. That's too many people wearing maroon. It's the soccer player from Utah Valley University who had his hoodie up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the people that she has been, I think, indirectly implicating is Charlie's security detail. I will say, I understand that dynamic very well. I have seen the interactions between Charlie and his detail prior to his death. I've seen what it has looked like for Turning Point USA and Erica Kirk following his death. I can tell you assuredly, based on the conversations that I have had with people who were there, that is a ridiculous accusation or even thing to be inquiring about. 2 of the people who worked that security detail gave me very in-depth detail of what it looked like in the 30 seconds he was on the ground before carting him off. I mean, it's graphic, and I don't really want to go there on this podcast. Plus, I don't feel as if I need to clarify what was said or the things that were done to Charlie Kirk in those few seconds while he's on the ground. But to say his security detail was somehow, some way, shape, or form implicated is ridiculous. And one more thing, too. She's talked a lot about Mikey McCoy, which I know Mikey personally. He is the happiest, the bubbliest, the kindest, the friendliest person, I think, at Turning Point USA, and he loved Charlie Kirk. I believe he was his, chief of staff or assistant, whatever you want to call it, for a while prior to his death, and he's taken the death really, really hard. So I know, how do you know what to believe at this point? It's one person's word against another person's word. Mm-hmm. I'm just here to tell you, in the interactions and the personal relationships I have, that is why I think so much of what Candace is saying is entirely baseless and unfounded and never being backed up with real convicting evidence.
Let me also just add that what Candace is doing is destroying people's reputations. I mean, when you hear the name Mikey McCoy, there's a little something in the back of your mind thinking about some of the things that Candace has said about him, that he was happy, he was upbeat, that Charlie was gone because he was going to be the next Charlie Kirk, that kind of stuff like that. When you hear Andrew Colvett, when you hear these people's names, Mike Turek, when you hear their names, it's because she has ruined their reputation, sullied it in some way, shape, or form for no reason, with no basis whatsoever. And before you jump into comments and say, well, show me the evidence that she actually has that any of this was true. There's none. Let's go, Riley. Great job.
I was also hesitant to talk about this because the comments that you get about, you've been paid, you got the call, the $7,000 must have hit your account. Can I just say, shut up? Like, literally shut up. Respectfully, I don't even think I could point to Israel on a map. I'm ashamed to say that. I'm not proud to say it, but no one pays me, especially a foreign government, to have a swayed opinion.
That's crazy. Shout out.
I think moral conviction is just a foreign concept to some people. And I think you'll have some people who comment on this and say, well, you're just a Trump loyalist. You're too trusting in the FBI. I'm not a Trump loyalist. I actually take real issue with people who treat Trump as if he's Jesus Christ himself. For example, I have an issue with the handling of the Epstein files. And for clarity, do I think President Trump is implicated in these files? No, absolutely, I do not. I think that would have been released years ago if he was. And I also understand that, we as the public, we aren't privy to what those internal conversations look like in the release of the files. But I will say I don't appreciate how President Trump handled it for a while when he was pressed initially. I think he said something to the effect, the people who are demanding the release of the Epstein files are stupid and foolish. That's something I certainly wasn't okay with, and I called out on my social media accounts. Okay, so get out of here with your Trump loyalist stuff. So that's a little background of the infighting that we've seen. Other actors, again, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, you have Megyn Kelly, Candace, Ian Carroll, Dave Smith. Those are some of the people who have been involved in this. And when approaching this conversation, I'm really of two minds. I thought I would, come on here and ask everyone to unite and put all of those differences aside because we have to win in 2026. And I still do think that. That's why this is kind of hard for me. So I'm kind of unpacking this out in real time with you guys. So again, on one hand, yes, we must unite. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if it's good to overlook some of the things that the infighting that we're seeing is fundamentally about, right? People talk a lot about unity as if that is the highest good.
I'm loving this. I'm right here with Riley. We need to, I do want us to win. I want us to win midterms. I want us to win the next election and the next one after that and so on and so forth, but not win at the expense of bringing in and not cleaning house. And I think this is what is showing this time post Charlie Kirk has actually shown that we need to do some house cleaning. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I'm right there with you, Riley. Excellent point.
Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not the highest good. Truth is the highest good. And when truth matters, unity isn't always possible. That reality shows up far more, I believe, on the right than on the left. And of course, there's a reason for it. The modern left is animated and enthralled and motivated by demolition and destruction, right? Think of it. Institutions, traditions, history, historical figures, historical statues, moral boundaries. To the left, none of that has to be preserved. And when your goal is destruction, you don't need agreement. You just really need momentum. You need the people who are on the ground willing to do those things. Any tactic will do so long as the target falls. Now, the right, the conservative party, it's different because I do believe that we're trying to construct something that lasts. Erica Kirk, she said it. I forget which interview it was, but someone asked her, what do you say to the naysayers, to the people like Candace Owens? She says, look, we're building.
Right.
And building, that requires clarity. It requires shared definitions and shared goals and shared first principles. You cannot build without answering basic questions, right? What are we aiming towards? What values shape this structure? What holds up when pressure comes? We could approach this conversation as Americans, as human beings, but as a Christian myself, I tend to approach this conversation as a Christian. The foundation that we're talking about, it's not one of political power or government authority. It is the truth that human beings are made in the image of God, one whose authority stands above the state, right? I understand that our rights don't come from legislators or courts. They come from him. And so when talking about right and wrong and good and bad, truth versus evil, these aren't things that are negotiated by a majority vote or a 2026 electoral win, right? That belief is load bearing. I think we should remove it and the entire framework collapses. So I believe as Christians, our responsibility is not to water down these principles or these morals for the sake of surface level unity. It is to argue, to persuade, and to invite others toward what is objectively good and true, what is biblically good and true. Unity that requires abandoning truth, I don't think is unity at all.
Good point.
It is surrender. And so, yes, the fractures and the fissure that we're seeing on the right, it is certainly uncomfortable to watch these debates pan out in real time online. You want people to take it behind closed doors. But I do believe they exist because you have people who are willing to argue about what is true, just as Charlie Kirk did, before we argue about who is in charge. And yes, that process is slow. It is imperfect. I believe oftentimes, as it's proving to be, it is painful, but it's also honest. The left can unify quickly because clearly the truth does not matter to them. The truth, avoiding the truth, it makes power really easier to obtain for them. But the right, on the other hand, I think it takes us longer to unify. We're calculated, and because we believe in the truth, and that difference matters. There was a tweet put up.
Okay, so I want to stop right there before she gets to this last part. I don't know if we can honestly say we all believe in the truth. We need to, this is the house cleaning aspect. This is the cutting away. This is the culling of the herd. We need to have a conversation like, okay, we stand on these certain principles. We do stand on these things, and you don't stand on these things and say this person right here doesn't represent what we're talking about. That needs to be said, whether it be outright racism or, fiscal policies, fill in the blank. There's many instances where somebody they might rock with you in a lot of areas, but there's some other key areas that they don't. And we need to be able to say that. I think that's okay to say that. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the JWhit Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.